The Ruger American Gen 2 absolutely surprised me. I told a good buddy of mine that I had gotten one of these in for review along with the new Ruger and deadair collaboration suppressor, the RXD30 Ti, and he told me I was likely going to be very happy with this thing. But the biggest surprise for me was just how this thing felt, not only to the initial touch quality-wise, but how it felt under recoil and absorbed it, especially with that new RXD30 Ti can from deadair. I started off out there on the range obviously with a quick 0, and usually after I laser bore sight, I'm pretty much dead on with very minimal adjustments needed, and that's because I use this thing right here, the Wheeler laser bore sighter, so it's magnetic on the end. You put it on the muzzle, you turn that thing on, but the trick is you do this at dawn or dusk, that way you can see that laser pointer out to 100 yards and you dial your scope right into it. And generally, as long as you got this thing like centrifugally correct around the muzzle device, you are extremely close to 0. So if you're not doing it that way, you definitely might want to, because it's going to save you time, frustration, and definitely some expense when it comes to those nice 6.5 Creedmoor rounds like the ones we fired today. After I knew I was all zeroed, I tossed on the new Ruger RXD30 Ti can. So this is the collaboration between deadair and Ruger to pretty much match this rifle right here, and I have to say, did a very nice job, both sound suppression and recoil mitigation. Now, I actually forgot to put my ear pro down on the first set that I sent down range because I had been running a bunch of different stuff, going back and forth, just forgot to throw the ear pro down. And what I can tell you is this can definitely works, especially when it comes to sound suppression, because I didn't even notice that I had forgotten to put my ear pro down. But generally on bolt action rifles, you do get a far better sound at the shooter's position when it comes to a suppressor, but also the recoil mitigation was quite nice and really noticeable. But definitely don't do that. Always protect your eyes and ears. And speaking of eyes and ears, Shell Shock Protection does sponsor the channel. That's the ear protection, eye protection I've been wearing for a long time now on the channel. They make really nice ballistic rated eye protection that's good looking enough to wear out in the town or out on the range. And their ear pro is electronic, so you can hear what's going on around you. It's got gel inserts already on it, so you get a good seal. So you can protect your ears and your eyes because you only get one set for life. There'll be a link down below if you need some ear protection or some glasses to wear out there with a little code to help you guys save 10%. Now from there, I moved on to printing groups. For the initial 0, I used Cellular and Bellet 140 grain FMJ ammo. Now, it's not really precision ammo. It's my practice ammo that I use a lot, but I've gotten really good results out of it. So typically I 0 to that and then kind of finalize the 0 to whatever ammunition I'm going to be using as far as like hunting or precision. But that is a great place to start. So I did that. And then I moved on to several different precision ammunition types so I could really see how this thing was actually going to group out there on the range. And the ammo for today's groups are Barnes 140 grain OTM match ammunition, Sierra boxed factory ammunition and 140 grain as well. And I also used some old Hornady Tap ELDM ammunition that I found in the back of the closet. I probably had it for a couple of years now. And then I did shoot some of the Norma 130 grain GT stuff, but honestly, it's not worth mentioning that ammunition because it prints terrible on pretty much everything that I've tried it in. If you've had a different experience with that, please let me know in the comments. And the results that I got accuracy-wise out of these ammunitions was pretty surprising. So me behind the gun, right? Not using a lead sled, not using a rest of any kind, a bipod, me, and a bag. So I'm like kind of novice, maybe like low intermediate level when it comes to accuracy. And I was very impressed with the groups that this thing printed downrange. Some people, when they print groups, they don't include a cold bore shot. So if you don't know what a cold bore shot is, especially with a suppressor, because your 0 will deviate slightly with a suppressor, it's basically when the rifle's fresh, no rounds, it's cold. And when you take that cold bore shot, it's going to be a little off from your 0. Could be a lot, could be a little. It really just depends on the rifle. Some people do include that cold bore or fouling shot, as some people call it. I want to show you both because I want to give you guys a really good idea of what the accuracy is, both cold bore and for repeated shots, for a total of 5 shot groups. The first one being cold bore and the next 4 being probably your core group. As much as you may agree or disagree with the cold bore theory, I want you to see both because in real life and on your hunt and out there on a match, if you're using a rifle, that first shot matters, especially once the distance is magnified, because the longer you shoot, the more your mistakes or the more that deviation from a cold bore comes into play. And if you guys are interested in anything that we talk about, you see here today, and you want to do your own research, I'll have a build list link down below, be the first link in the description. And for you brave souls that need the QR code, I'll put it right up here So as you're enjoying a 3-day-old piece of pepperoni pizza in your employer's break room, casting it to the TV, you can go ahead and scroll through that parts list and do all your own research. Now let's get into those group sizes. Remember, this is going to be a total 5-shot group, including a cold bore, and then I'm going to show you the difference between not having the cold bore and the cold bore shot in there. And I wrote these down on my phone after using the Ballistic X app so I can actually give you an appropriate result. So with the Barnes 140 grain OTM, the entire group was 1.1 with a cold bore, and then the 4-shot core group was 0.909. That is very good, especially out of a very budget-friendly rifle. Next up was the factory-loaded Sierra Match Kings in 140 grain, and that group was 1.3, so a little bit wider on that one, probably me, but then the core group was 0.676. That is extreme accuracy. And last up is the Hornady Tap ELD Match 140 grain, and that group was 1.5, so I definitely opened up on this one, but the core group was 0.713, which again is a very good result. Now when it comes to that 130 grain Norma GT stuff, it was like a 2+ inch group. Like, it's not even worth mentioning, and I haven't got that stuff to print nicely in any of my rifles in 6.5 when it came to 18, 20, 22, 24, and I think that's about the extent of the length I have right now. But if you've had better luck with that, please let me know, because I just can't seem to get it to perform. But overall, that accuracy is very nice. I don't think any of my hunters out there are going to complain about any of those results. And you put a better end user behind this thing, or put this in a lead sled or a rest, and I guarantee those groups are going to tighten up substantially. Now, I did all those measurements with Ballistic X, as I put up on the screen, but one thing to take into account is when you take the picture, right, you have to do it with your cell phone, you take a picture of the target with Ballistic X, if you are at any way, at any angle, it can throw off the results a little bit. So I tried to get the best, flattest, most perfect picture I could, do all the measurements right, so you guys will have very appropriate results. But speaking to several of my friends out there, they have all achieved sub-MOA accuracy with these things, so there's no doubt in my mind that it's going to perform, especially when you feed it that really nice ammunition. And remember that every barrel and every action is going to tell you a little bit of a different story. It's going to like one ammunition, maybe two, a lot better than some others. So testing a few more types of different hunting loads, I might actually find one that performs a little bit better. But that's for you to do at home, should you get into an American Gen 2. Now, as far as how this rifle is rigged up right here, one, it's pretty, it's gray, and I think most of you out there know that I really love gray. But up top, we have the Athlon Midas TAC Gen 2 in first focal plane mil. And yes, this is a hunting rifle, but I really just like first focal plane mil reticles, so that's what I went with. If you want MOA, second focal plane, you can do that. I've got some MDT rings up here, which is always just a great choice, and some MDT Oryx bipod out there on the front. And the reason I went with those Oryx bipod setup is because this is a lightweight hunting rifle, and I wanted something that was going to be pretty slim and trim and lightweight when it came to the bipod. Now, I've used a bunch of the Athlon optics in all of their different tiers, and I've been very happy with all of them, and I've got zero complaints. MDT rings are well proven. And then of course, all groups were fired with this RXD 30 Ti can, which again is the collaboration between Ruger and Deadair. This thing is super cool as well. 3D printed grade 5 titanium. It's got their Triskelion gas dispersing technology in there. And it actually did do quite a bit to mitigate recoil. There was a noticeable difference between when I fired and zeroed without the can as compared to when I put the can on. And then of course, the sound suppression coming out of this barrel was definitely very noticeable, especially when I forgot to put my AirPro down. Another cool thing about this RXD 30 Ti can, it's hub compatible back here. So if you want to use different QD designs, you definitely can. And it's also got those modular end cap designs with normal size tools. So your typical socket wrench, and you can go ahead and take this on and put whatever different variation of front cap you want on there, which is definitely very cool because different front caps will serve different designs and different purposes. And a big thanks to Optics Planet, who actually supplied the Athlon scope, the MDT rings, and those Oryx bipod for the video, because they've been a big supporter of the channel for a few years now, and they make possible a lot of what I'm able to do here and help you guys make choices that are gonna fit your needs out there when it comes to all this stuff. But what all does the American Gen 2 have over the other rifles that are out there? So this is the new version, the Gen 2 of the American, and this one is considered the standard. So with this, you get a gray Cerakoted barrel in action, and then this really nice looking gray splatter pattern on the stock, which does have a very nice texture to it. You can kind of hear it. Okay, and that texture is definitely going to help you keep a hold of this thing out on those wet days in the field. Out on the back end, you get a length of pull spacer and a soft rubber butt pad to help absorb that recoil. There is a comb riser that can be very easily removed and adjusted for your preferred height. This comes with the medium. You can get a smaller or a taller variant. They are not included. There are 2 sling swivels, front and rear, which is extremely usual for a hunting style stock like this. On the back side of the action, you get a very cool 3-position safety on this. So I want to show you how this works because it's pretty important for you to know. So 3 positions here, right up on the tang, and basically all the way down, or position 1 is you can't do anything. You can't work the bolt, you can't pull the trigger. Position 2, you can actually work the bolt, but you still can't pull the trigger. And then position 3, you can work the bolt, pull the trigger, and you are all good to go to get that thing working out there on the range. So very comfortable tang safety and a very cool design to ensure that you are extremely safe out there in the field walking around while hunting, going through thick brush that could manipulate your safety one way or the other, which is definitely a big positive. You have a pretty standard ejection port size on the action, and then up top it actually includes your Picatinny rail for your scope mounting, which is nice because some others, even more expensive ones, don't include that. It comes standard with an oversized bolt handle and a 70-degree throw. It is magazine fed in the AICS pattern, so you can upsize or downsize as needed. The trigger is adjustable between 3 and 5 pounds and has a safety blade design, which is very nice and positive. The barrel is a 20-inch cold hammer forged design with spiral fluting and has a radial port muzzle brake should you not want to use a suppressor or some form of QD device. It comes in a variety of calibers, but this specific one is 6.5 Creedmoor. And this thing naked only weighs 6.5 pounds. So even loaded up with your optic and a light bipod like those Oryx ones from MDT, this thing is going to be very easy to carry around all day on the hunt and all night if you're allowed to hunt somewhere at night. And if the gray splatter pattern is not your thing, they do have other options. They have the Predator version, which is a green splatter pattern with kind of a bronze or a gold action and barrel on it. Still spiral fluted and is very nice as well. They have a ranch version, which is a tan splatter pattern. Again, looks very cool if you're in those desert environments. They also have a scout version, which has like a very cool kind of fractured camo pattern. So pretty much they've got a color and a style for your needs and most of the main calibers we would be using out there for hunting. We all know that nobody gets a free pass here at Tactical Considerations, right? So were there any issues, problems, things coming loose, rounds flying off target, or things that I think could just make it that like 5% better? So overall, the quality and the feel of this thing and the accuracy that you guys have seen here with me behind the thing have been very good. The one thing that I did notice just on a couple pieces of brass, the bolt did seem a little tight on it. The bolt is very smooth. It runs nicely in there, but it will probably loosen up just a tiny bit, which will feed some of those pieces of brass a little bit easier. But most of it fed well, so I'm assuming maybe those couple of cases that I kind of felt a little drag on were maybe just a little tiny bit out of spec. The only other thing I think that could make the Ruger American Gen 2 like that 5% better, right? I would love to see some M-LOK provisions on the bottom here because it opens up a lot of doorways for you. You could put a little accessory rail down there for pick, for your bipod. You could put an Arca rail for some tripod work, and then you would still get use out of that sling swivel right there to run your sling off of. So sometimes I get a little greedy with my wants and needs, but I think that's something that would just kind of put it over the top. I'm really curious to get your guys' information on the American Gen 2 or even the American Gen 1 because most of my experience with Ruger rifles is the precision rifle, the Mini 14, Mini 30, or of course the 1022, right? Who doesn't love to have fun with the 1022? But it seems to be everybody that I talk to has really good results out of these rifles, and I want to get more of that information from you because I know a ton of you out there are running now the Gen 2, but of course the Gen 1 for your hunting rigs and probably passing those down to your kids. You guys keep doing things out on the range, and remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.